Hi guys, welcome to another LivinginSAtv video. David here. Today we are going to the basement of Rent Club to show you guys a very interesting place in our opinion, and I think you should visit. And you guys also know what? Rent Club went through major changes and you must think of becoming a member, because this place is top, and guess what? Is in the inner city. Once again, this video will blow your mind.
Hi, my name is James Finlay and I've got a bookshop in Rand Club, and today I'm going to show you around. But just for context, I just want to start out here, and if we look behind me we see a lighthouse. Well, that's an insurance company, a marine insurance company. And if we have a look next to it, we have the Union Castle Line headquarters. So it's quite a thought to think that even today Johannesburg is the biggest port in Africa, and that's a container port. But a very important building. We have the City Hall over there, and then of course the Rand Club where I'm in. So basically I wanted to illustrate that we're in an extremely important part of town back in the day when this building was built, 1904, and just behind us over there was the tram stop. So at the time this was built, there would be horse-drawn trams, and then of course there were tracks, and if you go there you'll still see tracks, and now it's turned into a taxi rank. So it's interesting how the city evolves like that. So another bit of context, if you have a look here, our streets are quite wide, and that is to accommodate ox wagons. Also, look how small the blocks are here in Marshalltown. So apparently the story goes that the Zuid-Afrikaanse Republiek under Paul Kruger charged more tax for a smaller, for corner stands. So if you have a look here, these shops would have been charged more tax to be on the corners, and so doing they raised more money. So let's just have a quick look at Rand Club. The address is 33 Loveday Street, and there is a story that goes that the highest level you can reach as a Freemason is the 33rd order. Has that got anything to do with the address? Maybe. Certainly if you have a look at the architecture, it's what they call Edwardian Baroque or Beaux-Arts, but we certainly have some interesting features, because if you look at above the doors here, these are garlands, and these garlands have pomegranates, which you get in the Middle East. Again, does that have any significance here or with Freemasonry? Who knows, but it's quite a beautiful architectural feature. Anyway, this is still a functioning members club, so I just need to be a little bit quiet for now, and we'll reconnect with you in a couple of minutes as we walk through the building and down to my shop down the stairs. Right, follow me downstairs. Actually next to the billiard room. So in the 1960s and 70s, apparently there were so many people visiting the club that they needed another dining area. The bar was full, the ballroom was full at lunchtime. So what they did is they sold the table. There was a billiard table over here, and they put up this drywall and they turned this into a restaurant. So right over here was a buffet, and apparently this was also packed. So now fast forward to 2018. Well, we got a new committee and a very good chairman under Rick Curry, and so they began to transform the club. So I was the very first tenant who came in here, and which was pretty controversial. So it went from being a total club to this change that took place, where you now as the public can come in here, visit my shop, and you can also go to the restaurant on the ground floor. The rest of the club is for members only, and we have about between 400 and 500 members at the moment. Quite a few people, a lot of them are out of town members as well. So a tremendous success due to Phil Thurston, the manager as well. He did a fantastic job. So now, what am I trying to achieve here? Well, just like the club is a destination venue, I'm also a destination venue down here. And so I stock very unique items. What we're looking at here are books that are 300 years old or 250 years old. This particular one signed by William Burchell as well, a great explorer. And so these very unique items I find so suit the space of Rand Club. So it's a great honor for me to have my shop and gallery down here. You know, it really is. And as a result, I try and keep it's in keeping with that, you know. So I specialize in political posters. Some of them would have been banned as well. And the books you're looking at here are some very rare books. This is by I.C. Smuts, for example, Jan Smuts' wife, and that's in her own hand. This particular book over here is the first time certain fynbos species were actually documented, and it's published in 1739. So with original copperplate engravings in it. So some very, very rare material here. And that's the point. It's the perfect venue, and there's a symbiosis. So with Rand Club, I've got a fantastic relationship with them. You know, it's not often that one praises one's landlord, but it really works well. So I do pay low rent here, but as a result, I've got to accommodate them. So we have film shoots down here. My space has been rented out for Christmas lunches. We've had book launches, and a lot of the interior here can just be moved away, and we set up chairs. We've had jazz down here. We can seat 70 people for jazz, and those are great evenings. I highly recommend them. So as we move through here, we've got the rare books, and these Bibles are first edition Haydock Bibles, the bottom ones, and that's the first edition from Victorian times, very popular Catholic Bible that. But also with the antique maps that I've got, some of them are 300 or even 400 years old, so they're all original. And I just want to point out some interesting things here, David. If you look at this map, so this map's from 1752, and it's got Atlantis here. So Robert de Burgundy, the cartographer, in Latin it says here, monotum, which is warning. He says, ancient cartographers have said that there's a place called Atlantis. And so he wanted to include it in the map, just to say. But also an interesting thing on that is, where does the word Atlantic come from? Well, the god Atlas is at the bottom of the world. The bottom of the world at the time of naming the Atlantic was 2,000 years ago, and the Greeks named it because the god Atlas used to hold the world up like that. And so the Atlas Mountains are at the bottom of the world, hence the god Atlas. So there are all these sorts of interesting things that are stocked down here.
Oh, James, thank you so much, man, for taking us around here. I think I've learned a lot. I've learned a lot about the history of this beautiful city of ours, which is Johannesburg. I mean, as you know, that the only way that we can be able to move forward, it's important that we retrace our steps.
Yes.
You mentioned that you were the first tenant here. How long ago was that?
Well, in Khuleleko, that was 2018, so October.
Yeah.
So we're pretty much 6 years now.
Yeah.
It's amazing how time flies, actually. It really is.
And how has it been ever since you've been around here?
Well, it's really been a great journey.
Okay.
You know, of course there was COVID and things like that.
Yes.
But I've got a wonderful tenant.
Yes.
You know, that's
Landlord, you mean?
a landlord. Yes. And if you have a look at the bar counter over there.
Yes.
So this for example, it happened like the following. You know, we need to store this somewhere.
Yes.
And I put up my hand and I say,
Yes.
I volunteer to store this counter in my shop. So, and the same with that couch over there.
Yes.
You know, so there are some Rand Club items of furniture here in the shop as well, and that's also to keep in keeping with the whole atmosphere of the club.
Yes.
So it's very important that we have this link, you know.
Yes.
So we very much use this space for club events, you know, jazz and book launches and things like that.
No, that's great. I want to take it back, a bit, and I'm happy that I'm speaking to a historian that is, quite knowledgeable about what was happening here. I mean, I'm an African guy. Rent Club, if you look at the history of the Rent Club, I know you don't speak, obviously, for Rent Club, but I'm just taking advantage of this opportunity because now that I have you. Rent Club is over 100 years old. But when was the first time that people who look like me, the African guys, were actually allowed to access the Rent Club, to be members in the Rent Club?
Yes, Kululeko. So it was the mid-80s, 1980s. And in fact, black men became members before ladies did. So remember, this was historically a gentleman's club. It is quite controversial. Back in the day, ladies had to enter through Commissioner Street, through a side gate, and then come up the stairs to access the ballroom. But there's lots of controversy in that context. For example, there was an anti-Semitic phase as well in the early 20th century where Jewish people were excluded. But ironically, the story goes that when Cecil John Rhodes wanted to open the club, he bought 2 plots of land, and there were another 2. So he approached Ike Sonnenberg and said he'd like to buy those. And Ike said, well, what is it for? And he said, a gentleman's club. So he said, what a brilliant idea, let's donate it. So one of the founding members was Jewish, you see. So I think what happened is there was a type of cycle that took place, because the club very much stopped being anti-Semitic in the early 80s or whenever it was. So, and now it's open to everyone, and it's actually quite interesting to be a member now. So I'm a member as well as a tenant, and you meet all kinds of characters, and I thoroughly enjoy it. So it's a unique environment in that context. And where we all like-minded, and I've met the most fascinating people of all backgrounds that are now members. Yeah,
that's amazing. There's something that you've been correcting us. Obviously, when we see artifacts, I don't think it's just only us, me and David, but almost everyone. When we see what you have here, we are tempted to call it a museum. Yes. But why do you insist on saying this is not a museum, it is a bookshop? Can you kindly just explain that?
Yes. So with a museum, it's a display that's curated by an academic person. So in my case, this is a shop where everything is for sale, and I then curate what's in the space. And then, of course, it's not really objective because it's my opinion, you see. So yes. when you go to a museum, yes, it's someone who's qualified and they have a university degree in a certain subject matter. So I don't have that. And I've got so many different items here. So I'm fascinated in everything. And so what I do is I do my own research of all of these items, and I discover these things myself. And that's what's fun for me. So I've been in the trade for 27 years, and you keep learning new things, which I absolutely love. And some of my mentors were trading when they were 80, so it means I've got another, bunch of decades to still trade, which is really exciting, and that's what I love. And the other thing is, a business like this always evolves. So what you were selling 20 years ago might not be selling now. It's out of favor, out of fashion, you see. And then there are new collectibles that have come up. So it's always changing, which is wonderful. Every single day you're learning new things, there are new items. Yeah.
That's great. I've heard you say you collect maps, and we've been looking at maps that you collect, and posters, political posters. How do you source all these amazing historic artifacts?
Well, I actually it all finds me. 95% of it finds me, which sounds a bit odd, but I don't go to auctions, and because I focus on these unusual pieces, you can imagine people do a Google search, to buy from me. I'm one of the very few people in Joburg who sell these items, and the same thing when I buy,
Yeah.
It's also very, very few people who are buying this. So that's how it works. Yeah.
Okay. So who's your typical clientele in the space? Because it can't just be everyone.
Yes, you see, that's the golden question, is the target market. So it's all about supply and demand. So arguably what I've got here hasn't sold yet. That's because I haven't found the demand for it. And I've got the supply. Now, so what happens is I get quite a few tourists here, and so I certainly sell quite a few of these items go to tourists. But imagine some of the locals. Let's say you were in the End Conscription campaign, for example. Well, I've had some original posters from then, and at the time they probably were destroyed in the 1980s. But now people, as they get on in life, want these artworks, because that's what they are. They're silk screens. So they buy the posters from me and frame them up. So there's lots of different reasons why people collect. But what happens is people identify with the item. So let's say their worldview coincides with what they're wanting. And then by having such and such a books on their shelves, that is their outward projection of who their personality is, It's that sort of thing. So you would certainly buy something because you like it, you want to display it, and so on.
Normally, you've got special customers. Obviously, it's not everybody that will be your clientele. But how difficult it is to negotiate, pricing for, the products, that you have here, because there is no standard system that actually, exists.
Yeah.
Well, how do you go about doing that? Because sometimes sentiment plays a huge role in this.
Yes, you see, that's such a good question, okay, because I've been asked, is it a type of arbitrage, in a sort of finance sense? Am I exploiting a sort of discrepancy in the pricing, It's not really that so much as I certainly have to price the items at market value. But the market value is directly proportional to the story I tell, you see. So I price the item at what I think it should be, and then I must be able to justify that. And what I'd like to think is I don't just use a crutch like the internet and say, oh, well, so-and-so in America is asking such and such a price for an item, therefore that's where I'm positioning the price. I don't do that, but I do. It has to coincide with a story that reasonably describes the price.
How long have you been doing this, James?
For 27 years now.
What triggered you to start doing what you do now?
Well, the profession actually chose me. I didn't choose it. So how it played out is I used to buy books from markets and flea markets and charity shops and so on for my own collection. And then I found certain books that were not for me, but I know they had a market value. So I'd take them to other book dealers and they would buy them from me. And so what happened is I realized that my one bookcase of books in my house was all paid for by looking for books, you see. So in 1997, I got a flea market stand at the rooftop flea market, and I traded there for 5 years,
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. How do you decide what to buy, what is worthy for you? Because I can imagine in business, yes, even in the space that you're in, supply and demand laws still apply. How do you determine this? I'll find a client, for this. What criteria do you sort of, use to pick up these items?
You see, that's the golden question. So by reading quite a lot and following catalogs and things, you get a sense of what's working. And So that's what I'd say is I think something's got a chance, that's why I buy it, is because I think I've got a customer for it. And if I don't have any customers for it, then I've got to think about it for down the line, because you do speculate. You definitely speculate. So remember, as dealers, we do make lots of mistakes, but it's a bit like a game of tennis, you see. You lose several points, but do you win the game and do you win the match? That's the most important thing. Also, when you buy, you might just want 5 books out of the collection, but you have to buy 50 books, you see. So that's when I put the other books in the sale room. So this is an art. It's not a science, definitely.
Okay. No. I think I love this. I love also your space, the kind of setup that you have. You mentioned earlier on that you do host jazz nights.
Yes.
And I see there's a stage, here, book reading. Because I remember I've been around long ago. We used to come here for the balconies and basement and balconies, because this space, which is a rent club, still falls within the literacy district. Literacy district. Can you kindly tell us about the literacy district? I know you might not be the main guy, but you are, part of that.
Yes. So Griffin Shea is the one who set up the literary district, and it's a fantastic project. He's just completed a map that Bradley Kirschenbaum assisted in, and many others. And it's a wonderful project to bring us all together, because here in the inner city, we've really got a lot of booksellers. And if you think about it, there are a lot of informal booksellers that maybe have 1 table or 2 tables, and they're situated near popular areas, such as taxi ranks, etc. And it's amazing how none of us really compete in stock. You see, so I carry different stock to what Griffin carries, as well as these other traders. So the idea behind the district, or one of the ideas, is that you could have a one-stop destination as a book buying visitor, where you could travel around and see all these different places. So I think it's a wonderful initiative. It really is.
No, that's amazing. And the support from the young generation, because you've got all this knowledge, and you need to pass it on, as you are doing, with us today. But do you think there's an interest in the younger generation to really, understand history?
You see, even I was not interested in history when I was younger. It was only in my mid-20s that I really became interested in history. So this is a normal course of action. When we're older, we have a bias to think, that the younger generation are not interested. Well, they're just not ready, And so I'm not at all concerned, because there's in fact more reading going on now than ever before in history, because of access to books. And you must also remember, when you read on the internet, even if you're reading these 1-paragraph items, you're still reading.
You're still reading, yes.
Yeah. So there's more reading going on now than ever before in history.
I think if an OG like yourself can join TikTok, you've got a TikTok account. James got a TikTok account, so it means the youngsters, as well. I think you will be able to catch them there, because that's a space where they are dominated. It's quite savvy. How do you find this new technology, TikTok? How has it been since you've joined, TikTok? I've seen that you've got followers, on TikTok.
Yes. Well, I've got 2,000 followers now, which even amazes me. And one of the videos is on 84,000 views.
Jeez.
And if you think going back, when I started 27 years ago, you would be very happy to have sort of 50 customers that even knew who you were.
Yes.
Never mind 2,000, But remember that it doesn't translate necessarily to sales or anything like that, which is fine. I like to write stories and be a bit of a storyteller. So that's what TikTok really is. It's a wonderful platform tell these short stories, you know. So I speak for 1 or 2 minutes about a topic, you know.
I think it's a great platform, knowing that brands and more people actually they are driven towards that platform. I think for me to bring it back then to your space, because you invited us to your space. You are a tenant at Rent Club. You mentioned that you do host, you know, events. What is the process? Do you host outsiders, or you need to be involved in anything that get hosted here? What is the process for someone to host a jazz sort of, you know, session, jamming session, you know, around? What is the process?
So it has to all go through the events committee. And if one wants to contact, you'd have to start with reception. So that's reception@randclub.co.za. Send them an email and say what event you'd like to have here, and then they'd take it from there, you know.
No, that's great, James. I think we can talk the whole day, but I think we need to have another sit down, you know.
Yes.
It's what we always say, that, you know, the videos that we make, there's no way that we can cover, you know, everything. I think someone like you, with the knowledge, you know, that you have, we actually, you know, need to have, you know, kind of a sit down. Maybe you should start a podcast. Maybe we should do a podcast about the, you know, stories, you know, of this nature, because I think it's important that we engage, you know, about history, because Johannesburg is what it is because of, you know, what happened, you know, in the past. Thank you so much, you know, James, for actually, you know, inviting us, you know, to your space. And I know you're not responsible for the entire Rent Club, but we really appreciate the knowledge that you've actually, you know, shared, you know, with us. How do people, I know we're going to put your details, obviously, you know, here, but how do people actually access you, those who actually want to do business or want to make inquiries about your business?
Well, in Kulileko, if you go to my website, so it's jamesfinlaycollectiblebooks.com. So I know that's quite a mouthful, but there's a reason for that, because if you type any sort of combination of that into Google, then I'll come up, you know. So that's the best way to get hold of me. And of course, you members of the public are welcome to come into the club and visit me down here, and even go to the restaurant. So Rand Club's restaurant is open to the public. It's just the rest of the building is a members only area.
Okay, no, thank you so much, guys. I hope you'll visit, you know, James, support, you know, him. I think what you do here is quite noble. Yes, it's a business, you need to be able to survive, but I feel that you're also preserving the history, you know, of Johannesburg, and we really appreciate you, James.
Yeah,
thank you so much, man.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure, my brother.